Oops, dropping on my papers. I gotta, anytime I'm on this screen, I gotta always have papers, as in my notes, because I'm too scatterbrained for all that other stuff. Some people, in fact, like to work off their memory, right? I don't like to do that sort of thing. I don't like to be sitting on screen, yes, going off no memory, and just going off my thoughts purely. I'm saying I like to have a direction with that, because if not, I'll be all over the place. Scatterbrained. Brained. Not brained it. Scatterbrained. So, and me saying this, yes, Jeffrey Dahmer. Oh my gosh. Should I hide my fingernails and all the rest? Pertaining to even that, I'm hoping Jeffrey Dahmer parents can't see this, as in the joke I just made. The wise statement, right? I'm saying because even Jeffrey Dahmer, he didn't have respect for others, so yeah. So yeah, like, subscribe, ID in the Discovery Channel. Yes, ID in the Discovery Channel. The links are provided below. Get that Discovery Go app as well. Yes, as well as an ID Go. You might in fact want to fit that is in the back of your back pocket. No jail cell involved. So yeah, let me see something. Because I didn't rehearse. Why should I? There ain't no rehearsing on the end of my end. What I look like? Piper, possibly. Right? Yeah, so let me see. The lead in. The lead in. No, not a lead, because the man is already gone. Right? And so, yeah, who's crazy? That's my question. Who's crazy? I'm asking this question. Is it Dahmer's mother? Dahmer? Like no, not like Daimler Chrysler. Dahmer. Who's crazy? Is it Dahmer's mother or is it his father? It's just a question. Cannibalism. Let me see. What issues did Jeffrey have? Cannibalism, necrophilia, and being an alcoholic from time to time. However, right? Okay, so peering, yes, I got to peer into the extremes of Dahmer himself. He was known, yes, to do things such as cutting up bodies and all the rest, which is why I made the joke in the opening of my own fingernails. Should they be on guard while I'm on here? Should my lips even be on guard despite him being gone, right? Blunging, what? Some blunging, what? Not a plunger, no. A sex offender, yes, hiding bodies. He was known to hide bodies of, yes, his homosexual lover victims. He was hiding them in his apartments. All kinds and all looks and, yes, and various races and all the rest, right? I'm just trying to understand a Jeffrey Dahmer mindset. I've been saying this whole thing for 2 weeks. Walking through the house and, yeah, and traveling and all this other stuff, saying Jeffrey Dahmer would just pop up in my head. What was the mindset of Jeffrey? I just can't see sitting somewhere eating somebody's fingers with some spaghetti or something. That ain't gonna work. Nibbling on somebody's toes. Possibly toe jam. That's not right. I'm saying do what you do, but for me, that ain't gonna work. Chewing on a t-shirt to get to some flesh or something. Oh, that's not. So yeah, Dahmer had a manic thirst for blood. Dahmer, yes, he would store bodies in the apartment while the neighbors were forced to smell the stench of the rotting bodies. I even seen a video of a black individual. She was a black, yes, young lady that spoke of her experience living amongst Jeffrey Dahmer and her smelling whatever, and yeah, in the apartment, and them all finding out that sort of thing was going on. How would you feel living amongst that, knowing that trash, waste? That's not saying dead bodies is that, and yet you know what happens with that, right? The waste chemical matter that sifts into the air, and you're being able to smell that. And she even gave the description of what it smelled like. She said it smelled like chitlins. That's interesting, because you know, you got black folks, majority, not all, that eat chitlins, right? I in fact love chitlins with hot sauce. And yet for her to say that is to possibly change my mindset on even a bowl. Possibly no longer in the pot, bowl, or up the nostril, right? But yeah, that had to be an interesting experience to be a neighbor living next to a man that has did all that, and you can smell it while he was doing it. It smells of deadly flesh in the bodies and the rotting of the bodies. Let me see. Dahmer, yeah, he was known to place bodily parts. He would place it in liquid and stuff to preserve the body parts and all that other stuff. How would Jeffrey? I never thought about that. How would a Jeffrey Dahmer would have considered to work at Discovery or something, and do that sort of thing like on pigs and animals and stuff like that? That sort of thing. I'm saying that's what scientists do. He had a scientific mind, and yet not in the right way. I'm thinking, why didn't Jeffrey Dahmer choose another profession outside of humanistic, cutting up body part, holistic type of activity? That ain't even a word, but I just made it into one. Why didn't Jeffrey Dahmer become a scientist or something? Because see, he was already doing that anyway. He was just doing it on victims, whether they were alive or dead. And then me saying that, yeah, how would Jeffrey Dahmer had worked over at Discovery? Discovery possibly will be shut all the way down, is what I'm trying to say, because possibly he more likely would have had everybody running out the building. And Oprah wouldn't have want no part of that. She possibly shut down as well. And possibly even moved back to Africa. I'm saying Oprah, knowing that Jeffrey Dahmer was saying he was coming to work at Discovery or something like that. Yeah, people will be fearing that type of thing, because people behind the jail cell and all that other stuff, yes, in fact, feared the man while he was in jail with them. Even the jail guards and all that, and the individual that killed him. Yes, that too. I feel even he possibly had a fear of him and hatred as well, because remember, Jeffrey Dahmer was known to kill black males as well, right? So I'm wondering about the scientific aspect, because see, look, for Jeffrey Dahmer to be doing what you would consider lobotomies, a lobotomy, he would drill. Jeffrey Dahmer would drill holes into the victim's skulls while they were alive, killing them, yes, upon contact, as in the process while it was happening, right? Jeffrey Dahmer, lobotomy. That sort of thing you would in fact want to have go get some medical treatment, as in let a hospital or a surgeon do that sort of thing. But to take the time, that's what I'm trying to say. Why didn't Jeffrey Dahmer become a scientist or a surgeon or something? If you like to cut up bodies and all that other stuff, you could in fact, but see, his mindset was completely off with that. And possibly even more hallucination or something set side by side with that. Because see, to know you like to cut up and all that other stuff is to say you could in fact have healed somebody and helped them live by, say, becoming a heart surgeon. Outside of being a general doctor, you could have became a heart surgeon. If somebody has a spleen or something and something happened, you could have taken care of that, as in cutting the bodily organs out and replacing them in the form of transplant or something else, right? Cannibalisms, they can't really take to that because they have a cannibalistic mind. They see the eating and all that other stuff and the enjoyment of cutting up. And yet even that's the question, even God and all that other stuff. People might say, well, evil goes into that as well. I don't know really what goes into that. I said I judge serial killers. Yes, I in fact do. But when it comes to stuff like that, I want to know the science up underneath that with the research. The cannibalism, as in, because that's been going on since the beginning of time, and not too many people know that. Cannibalistic, wanting to eat somebody's thigh or something, or toes, chewing and gnawing on somebody's toes and bones and chewing on the bone and all that, right? That's been going on since the beginning of time. There's some sickness in that, right? But every time I get to thinking about people just cutting up stuff, I get to thinking about surgery all over again. Like, well, why couldn't a God have used them pulled them away from evil or something, and had them be surgeons of all kinds. Surgeons, where people need surgeries and stuff. Doing transplants and stuff like that for people that really need it, right? And not just be cutting up people's body for the hell of it and experiment. But yeah, the lobotomy thing, that points in, yeah, that sort of thing. He would in fact drill holes into his victims, whether they were homosexual, such as gay lovers, or whatever hot type of victims that, yeah, he would do that too, right? They would be well alive, and when he was drilling, of course, that would kill them in the process, right? That ain't gonna work. And when he would do that, the drilling, he would also pour acid into their skull, right? That all sound like surgery. Surgical technician, surgery. What else goes into that sort of thing? That ain't never gonna work. I'm saying, if Jeffrey Dahmer was different, outside of that sick whatever was going on, the sickness, right? How would he have been? Not only that, the question still stands, who's crazy, pertaining to the mother or the father, as in giving birth to a child like that. I'm still in question of that. I asked it in the opening, and yet to get off track some is to do it just to make stuff a little bit more interesting, right? Who's crazy, the mother or the father? Let me see. Molestation. His parents divorced when he was 14 years old. Dahmer stated their divorce fueled his appetite for murder and necrophilia. That means what? I'll allow you, the viewer, to research on that end. Things people like to do with dead bodies, and experimenting with dead bodies, and having sex with dead bodies, and all type of things, right? So yeah, once again, his parents, yes, they're divorced at the age of 14. He said the divorce fueled his appetite for murder and necrophilia. So, and that is questionable of whether an older neighbor too. Because to have be living everyday human life and say you got issues going on, personal issues your own, being a kid at 14 years old, and then say somebody come and take advantage of you, such as a neighbor, molestation or something, and then have your parents divorces to say a lot is going on, where even hormones are shifting for a 14-year-old, right? And I don't know whether a 14-year-old mind will crack at that age or whatnot, right? But molestation, it is questionable, yes, of whether an older neighbor molested Dahmer when he was 8 years old. So to rewind back even further is to say, well, to be 8 years old, be a kid coming up, not knowing how his household was. Even children have issues that even they don't know about internally, right? Looking at life outside, trying to make sense at even 8 years old. Having that go on, and you your own individual being 8 years old, and then say a neighbor come take advantage of you. I'm going back again, and I should, because the mix up of age of what I stated. I stated 14. That's when the divorce occurred, and yet the molestation is questionable if it took place at 8 years old on his end, right? So for him to be 8 years old, not really fully, completely know and understand the world, and then have a grown man or woman or whoever molested him, older adult neighbor, take advantage of him sexually, and then have his parents, yes, had their own personal issues, right? Is to say what could have in fact offset his mind. Not offset it, but offset his mind. Made him into the man who he was. Which is why, too, I asked the question of the parents, like, who's crazy? Because, see, to be a Jeffrey Dahmer is to ask the household. Nobody wants to go really deep into the household, really, really deep up underneath the layers and pull back. Or you being that young, even up under the age of 14, being 7, 8 years old, and even before. When I asked, well, who's crazy? His mother or father, that's to ask what all was going home in his childhood. The childhood, what all was going on between the four walls of the house that even family members didn't see or whatnot. But not only that, child abuse. Could any child abuse taking place, or any form of neglect? Sometimes abuse and neglect is not putting your hands on a child. Sometimes it's not even giving them attention at times. I'm saying that sometimes it's not giving them the attention in place of abusing them physically, right? But yes, child abuse and or neglect is known to help form the ways of serial killers. Child abuse and or neglect is known to help inform the ways of serial killers. So, yeah, his upbringing. Could the sexual molestation of a possible neighbor impacted Dahmer's thoughts and inspiring him to kill, or something else? Yeah. Or a treatment of a parent, one or the two. Possibly 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 and 9. I don't know. Right? The crazy part of pertaining to the parent, I said Dahmer's father, when you look at the interviews, his father's, yes, being questioned. His father appears, yes, questionable at face himself. Not him. His father does. Because of his level of emotion, yes, and lack thereof at times. This has been, this has been questioned by various individuals. Not on TV, not on TV, but viewers. Asking, well, why does the father look kind of, what's the word for it? Lackluster in emotion, right? Kind of like how I said, Casey Anthony, there was nothing there with her pertaining to if she murdered her child or not, right? But even Jeffrey Dahmer, the same thing of his emotions. Seeming and sensing somebody is completely emotionally detached. I can be that way myself at times, to detach away from pain and all that other stuff. People can actually sense when you're emotionally detached, because when they stand next to you, it feels like you're almost far away, right? So I'm wondering if the public pertaining to Dahmer's father, Jeffrey Dahmer's father, if that's the same thing. Because they're like, well, that man seemed like something is off about Jeffrey Dahmer's father. They say that time and time again, right? And this been the question for years, and yet to have a YouTube now in these day and ages to be able to see the other thoughts, views, and opinions of other people, as in what people feel about the father's mindset, right? I just be wondering what could have been the mindset of either parent of him, Jeffrey Dahmer's parents, growing up. What, like some people say, well, he was a demon, Jeffrey Dahmer, right? Because to do all that is to say, what, conspire to kill in that form and fashion, right? That's off the hook. That's completely off the hook. Let me see this. Yeah, what could have designed a Jeffrey Dahmer? Because he's a rare oddity, as in a rare individual, right? Not too many of us know the point and position on his end when he existed. So you in fact want to question what could have designed him. And the reason, we all serve a purpose on earth, and I'm thinking and considering even Jeffrey Dahmer himself served some type of purpose, or I always say life experience more so than purpose a lot of times too. Because life purpose can be anything. When you wake up in the morning, you feel like you're doing this. You feel like doing this when you wake up in the morning, or you feel like doing that. Those sort of things you would consider purpose, right? And yet that's all personal choice by free will, right? And so that's to say that too is an experience. So maybe life purpose is in fact experiences, right? I said that in my last video. But for Jeffrey Dahmer, in case of, say, if somebody ever questioned and asked, because I never seen this before, when I'm asking, well, what was Jeffrey Dahmer's purpose in life to humanity? What purpose did he serve being on this earth? Outside of just cutting bodies up and mangling them. Mangle them. When you mangle something, leaving the body mangled. Was that Jeffrey Dahmer's purpose, right? Well, I have to ask that sort of thing. What was in fact Jeffrey Dahmer's purpose? Because I'm trying to know and see with these serial killers. I'm trying to make sense. When people say, well, you talk long drawn out, because I be trying to make sense of stuff. Who don't try to make sense? If there's a God or a universe, some people, atheists, don't believe in that sort of thing. You still want to question, what was this man's purpose? As in, why was he there? Gifted to the universe, because we're all gifted here, and yet for why? Why was Jeffrey Dahmer on Earth? That don't make sense. It don't. Because see, for a universe or God or whatever, devil, like some people call him demon and then say the devil created him, is to say, what was his purpose just here to kill people and cut them up and then leave everybody grieving in the process? I'll allow you, the viewer, to pray and ask God about that, because I don't even know. The signs are telling of something. And yet no answers are there, right? So all human beings are built both faulty and flawed, and yet, yeah, what could have been wrong with Dahmer from birth? Yeah, or possibly before, as in at the womb. Was something wrong with Jeffrey Dahmer's mother is what I'm trying to say. Could genes have played a part in all this scandal of Jeffrey Dahmer's own mess? Could genes have played a role in Dahmer acting out his crimes in the way that he did? Could a bad seed full of evil, yes, could a bad seed full of evil and deception been passed down to Dahmer from generations before him and kept secret, as in kept hidden and on the low, such as a family secret? Consider serial killers of innocent victims involving murders, yes, who have walked freely. What? I didn't write that out, did I? Consider serial killers, yes. Innocent victims, and then you got serial killers. Yes, murders who have walked freely. The serial killers, I'm saying serial killers. I'm wondering, because all families hold secrets, so I'm just wondering if that was a Dahmer family secret. That sort of thing. You would want to ask that sort of thing. Could mental illness or something be all around the Jeffrey Dahmer's family, and them passing down a seed full of murder, and yet that sort of thing being kept hidden and on the hush or something, right? Let me see. All families have secrets. Yes, I just stated that. Yes, and passing down DNA and genes with that, because science usually states that mental illness is, well, they used to state this in the past. Scientists states mental illness is often passed down from a child's father more so than through the child's mother, and yet mothers too can also pass down mental illness to their child. This is a debate. It is. Well, that is the debate, the discussion of mental illness being passed down to the child, genes and DNA. If you question psychologists, that will be the debate on their end, because some feel that it does come from father more so than the mother, and some do feel that, well, mother is just can play an equal role in spreading that thing off to their child, not spreading it, but passing down to their child just as much as a father can, right? Yeah, so yeah, but a good film that can be found, yes, on child killers, right? That points into this as well, the mindset altogether, right? A good movie for that on your end will be to research. The film is called The Bad Seed. The Bad Seed. You might want to, in fact, look that up. That was about a child murder. Yeah, it depicts a child. The movie, in fact, depicts a child by the name of Rhoda. Rhoda, am I saying that right? She was a murderer whose grandmother, too, was a murderer. See what I'm going with this? The passing down of the murder gene down through the generations, and yet not saying and telling. That's what the movie The Bad Seed is about. That's why I'm questioning Dahmer. What over there in their family, who's crazy and nut job and loose with all even that, right? And may have had dead bodies running down through the generations. And yes, because see, that's a good question on my end, and I just thought that up with that because I didn't think of this until now. I didn't think about this question before, because when you consider all the dead bodies pertaining to what's the word for it? When you consider back through the generations, say when you had people coming up killed, right? And there was a lot of unsolved mysteries, or people coming up missing, and people's body being found mangled and all that other stuff. It's a saying as too, because somebody in Jeffrey Dahmer's family, the past generations, has something to do with that. Those type of situations way in the past, as in generations in the past. Because remember, unsolved mysteries and all that stuff been going on since the beginning of time, and yet you have families such as the Dahmer family and all the rest. This is just a question. This is not no allegation or conviction or nothing like that. I'm just asking. I'm just using them for an example. Because there's a lot of serial killers outside of Jeffrey Dahmer that say oftentimes the serial killer might get picked up off the street and put in jail, right? But say, what if a gene was passed down to them in their family, and not just him, other individual serial killers, and say all those past crimes of missing persons and bodies being found mangled and not people not knowing who did it? What if it was families like a Jeffrey Dahmer, and say that killer seed was passed down through the genes, which could be why those cases are still unsolved and unresolved? I have yet to see that sort of thing, and yet Discovery, shouts out to Discovery, my mindset with that. I'm wondering what child cases, what grown man or woman unsolved mystery, or what cut up bodies that have been found, even pointing back way to the 1930s and stuff like that. Say Jeffrey Dahmer, we still use him for an example, but say other serial killers, if say their family members away in the past could have did something, and then they pass that gene down, the killer gene down to their child, grandchild, whoever, right? And say the cases are still unsolved. People don't think about stuff like that, yet I do. I wonder why. So yeah, so back to my main question. I said it. The crazy. One parent or another parent. Set side by side. Right? Okay, so we know Dahmer, yes, was sentenced to 940 years. That's a long time. It's laughable in a sense. You can laugh and chuckle at that because that's a real life sentence, as in to sentence a man that butchered and cut up people and all that other stuff and all had sex with dead bodies, right? To send him to 940 years is to say he's never going to walk out the jail cell. So why not just kill him in the process, as in right on the spot, and let that be that, instead of giving him 940 years, something he ain't going to never even see in the first place? What is wrong with the justice system and the criminal system with all that? 940 years? The earth might not even be here and even rotating and possibly even still or all the rest, right? With that, right? To say somebody need to serve 940 years. I don't even think Jeffrey Dahmer needed to serve that. No, I feel like his life needed to be taken in the way that even he was killed by that other inmate. That, or more than likely killed before, right? Just a death chamber or something, right? Who's gonna be here 940 years from now? That's almost 1,000 years. I'm thinking the judge, when he sentenced Jeffrey Dahmer, I think the judge was doing that as a play on words and play on the fields, yes, in the room of the courtroom, to laugh in Jeffrey Dahmer's face or something, to slap him back or something with a joke or something. The judge to say, "Well, you're sentenced to 940 years." A what? They should have had the prosecutor come into the court something, and put him to death right there for everybody to see. Because even that's embarrassing and shameful to the grieving families, and know that their beloved dead ones, beloved family members was found, yes, with their body all cut up. That's embarrassing in itself. Somebody should have killed him in the courtroom. That's all I'm trying to say. That's laughter. It's funny. It is. So, let me see. So we know Dahmer was in fact sentenced to 940 years in jail back in 1992. The murder, yes. The murder of 15 years and 3 years into his sentence. What? The murder of 15 years and 3 years into his sentence. Dahmer and 2 inmates were... Okay, yes, that's right. Going into... Yes. The murder, you got the murder. When I wrote this out completely less gentle. As in, it's harsh on the eyes. I can't read it back as in what I wrote. So I'm trying to decipher what I said. The murder of 15 years and 3 years into a sentence. Dahmer and 2 inmates. Yes. 15 years, am I saying that right? And 3 years into his sentence. But I got that a little bit off. That looked shady as in the report on my end, as in my fingertip, as I was doing multiple things. The murder of 15 and 3 years into his sentence. That's not completely precise. No, it's not. It's off, right? Dahmer and 2 inmates were ordered to clean the gymnasium's bathroom. The jail guards turned their backs, and as soon as they did, Dahmer was beaten to death by a black inmate. Yes, Christopher Scarver. Yes, he was Christopher Scarver. Did you get me on that? When they was, yes, in the jail, they were ordered to clean the gymnasium's bathroom, and the jail guards turned around, turned their back, and as soon as they did, Dahmer was beaten to death by a black inmate, Christopher Scarver. And some, in fact, have said karma is real, right? That is so sad. This is what I seen with my own 2 eyes. I'm going to read it out. It's not my own opinion. No, it's theirs. Well, it's a mixture of the two. But, yeah, karma is real because Scarver killed Dahmer. Christopher Scarver, the black male, killed Jeffrey Dahmer in the same way Jeffrey Dahmer killed some of his past victims. One of his past victims, or several of his past victims that were in fact black, right? Innocent victims, right? I in fact seen a family member going off in the courtroom, yes, over that sort of thing, and jumping up and down and screaming and hollering over when she said, I hate you, I hate you. She was screaming at, yes, Jeffrey Dahmer about that sort of thing, screaming and crying and going off, jumping up and down, because to know that Jeffrey Dahmer, because see, that's sad, sick in itself. To know that Jeffrey Dahmer is allowed to sit there alive, well, he's no longer here, but when he was in the courtroom, that's sad in itself for somebody to be a family member, forced to go to court and then look into the eyes of the person that cut up or whatever breast, to not just that of victim's loved one that was in the courtroom screaming and shouting to him, I hate you, but to other loved ones, their innocent family members died by the hands of him, drilling into their skull and pouring acid in there, and then you got to go to court and see him sitting there and look eye to eye with him, right? That's messed up. She was like, I hate you, and screaming and crying. That's devastating in itself. But yeah, people do feel that that was karma. It said Jeffrey Dahmer, in fact, had many inmates in the jail, yes, fearful of him. Who wouldn't be, right? He would play with his food. He would act like his food were bodily limbs of victims. Yes, he would, in fact, yes, pass the ketchup with that. As in, cut up, stuff his food and all that, and pour ketchup on it and smear it like it was blood and laugh and all that stuff and crack jokes, yeah, pertaining to dead bodies and all the rest. That was freaking inmates and all that out, and possibly the jail guards to go with it, right? And I, in fact, do think and sense and feel that the jail guards more than likely had more of a hand in that than even they're telling. The jail guards, they possibly helped to set that up, because don't no jail guard want to be bothered. Because see, that's almost like a Michael Myers situation in itself, and it is. On the science end of my end to that end is to say that's almost a Michael Myers situation, or it could be, where Michael Myers was brutally butchering people and killing people, and then one day he took the time out himself to escape the hospital and roamed through the streets and was looking for his sister and killing innocent people in the process. That's more than likely what would have happened in the end, including a Jeffrey Dahmer. Him, yeah, more than likely escaping jail somewhere over time, as in possibly killing Jeffrey Dahmer. I could have seen it. Jeffrey Dahmer possibly would have been between the 4 walls of the jail cell where he was at, possibly thought of some way to get out, like Michael Myers did out that hospital, locked up, right? From the movie Halloween, I'm saying Michael Myers from Halloween, because Jeffrey Dahmer was operating in that same way, right? And yet Michael Myers was after his sister, but with Jeffrey Dahmer, it was anybody in the mess. So I'll be thinking and sensing Jeffrey Dahmer with a mindset like his would have found a way to get out of jail by killing 1 or 2 of the guards and then killing random guards in the process just to make his way up out of the jail. That's how people get loose. with stuff like that. So that's why I'm saying people like that you might want to in fact kill, as in put them to death. Trust and believe Jeffrey Dahmer sooner or later over time would have made his way out of jail. Something is telling me that, right? I don't know if it's God or the universe, but something is telling me more than likely Jeffrey Dahmer would have gotten out over time, because to sit that far behind a jail cell and just be sitting there thinking, and he's crazy to begin with, cutting up people while he was out, it's to say he could have played games with even the jail guards. The guards with the keys and all that. Keys, where they lock the door and all that. You don't even know in the middle of the night. And then he will be back out roaming the streets all over again. So it's good that Christopher Scarver killed him in the way that he did. That's sad. But it needs to be said. As in game recognized game. As in what you do comes back for you. So I think that's all to be said about that. Right. Oops. Christopher Scarver did a good deed to humanity as a whole, society as a whole. Because once Jeffrey Dahmer would have waited so many years to escape the jail, trust and believe that man would have escaped. Nobody possibly wouldn't have known where he was. He could have changed his whole identity and everything else and been right back out here killing other people all over again. And then by then, he more than likely would have thought of a way to possibly make it seem like it wasn't him. That's sick and it's sad in its sense, in itself, right? So, yeah, he deserves to be dead in the way that he died. No matter what race killed him, whether white or black, somebody needed to. And more likely the justice system needed to. More so than the average human day. More so the justice, he needed to die. Jeffrey Dahmer needed to die in the way that he did. And it's so sad that it took a everyday living individual such as another inmate doing it, killing him, right? And black at that, right? But somebody had to have taken care of that mess, as in getting rid of him. And it's sad that the justice system didn't take care of that themselves. That shows you the complete failure. That's messed up. So I think that's all to be said for now. That is all to be said for now. But yeah, his mom, when she was on the camera, I noticed that too. I was like, well, she looked like she kind of like Jeffrey Dahmer's mom. How some women back in the day, even in the 70s, they were known to use anti-anxiety or anti-depression pills. Back then they used to use it, right, to feel all mellowed out and all this other stuff back then in the time frame, right? Housewives, it was an epidemic of that. Not too many people know. Around the 70s, was it the 70s, was it the 60s or the 70s? Housewives, not desperate housewives, use in fact use stuff like anti-anxiety pills, anti-depression pills to just mellow out and chill out and just walk through the house and be zoned out, right? So when I seen her on the camera, on the footage, Jeffrey Dahmer's mother, I was looking at her because that's what it took me back to when I remember I researched and seen that, how housewives used to do that way back in the day. She looked it like that because she looked kind of like zoned out. And it could be because to take on the mind of the pressure of knowing that your son was a serial killer or whatever he chose to be, serial killer, mass murder, that's not the same thing. It's two different terminologies, right? But some people say mass murder, some people say serial killer. Your personal preference, but it's really not the same thing. But to be a mother and birth a child like that, and say if you're not crazy, if his mother wasn't, is to say, how do you stand to live with yourself knowing that your child did that to all them innocent victims, Jeffrey Dahmer, and you being the mother, having to go to bed and lay in bed at night and have that on your mind, is to possibly pop some pills to get rid of it, such as the memory of even not wanting to think your child could be capable of killing people like that, drilling holes and pouring acid in their brain and to their skull and all that, right? Which could be why she looked it so high on the camera. Somebody was saying, well, more than likely she had seizures or something, so could be that or was that or something. Well, I really don't know, but I'm thinking if she's a normal individual and say she's not crazy, it's to say she could be popping pills and possibly drinking alcohol or wine to escape thinking about all the tragedy her son has imposed on other individuals and their family members, and grieving family members at that, right? The father, he could be emotionally detached or trying to be. Either they're crazy over there, full blown, or they're trying to be emotionally detached with that. Because how would that look, you being a parent and your child is a serial killer, mass murderer, whatever term you like to choose and pick? I don't really choose sides, and yet I say serial killer, right? That's to say, how do you live with yourself, even you being a father? To procreate and then have somebody come out and have your genes, DNA, and then they doing all this killing people and cutting them up, right? So maybe the father is emotionally detached, and that's why he came across like that in the interviews. I just stated that, right? But that's a response. Because how do you, once again, either parent laying side by side? What is the discussion of the Dahmer family in the household, Jeffrey Dahmer's family, the mother and father? First off, when they first found out that it was taking place, that their child was doing that sort of thing, cutting people up. What is the family household conversation at the dinner table between the mother and the father? If they still married today and was even back then, what do they sit and discuss? Even when it was all on the TV screen and all that, and everybody knew who he was, what was his parents sitting discussing? Was they having sympathy and sorrow for their son, thinking that something was wrong with him? What was the discussion? I would just love to know. Jeffrey Dahmer's parents. What do you sit at the dinner table and eat and think about? Because, see, I'm thinking after that, if that was my son or something, I might more than likely would have became a full-blown vegetarian. After thinking my son is Jeffrey Dahmer and he's cutting up people and all this other stuff and practicing cannibalism and all that, eating bodily parts, I'm thinking at the dinner table, me being a mother and a father, I possibly would give up all meat, eating animal products, because that would turn my stomach and make me sick. That I gave life to a child and they doing all that, and now I'm eating an animal, seeing the blood. Some individuals like to eat their meat rare, is what I'm trying to say, like beef and the blood be dripping and all that other stuff, which is why I said that that's funny, and yet it's not, but it needs to be recognized. I would have been a vegetarian, because that's not gonna work to say be sitting there being Jeffrey Dahmer's mother or father and eating a beef or a steak and it's rare done, and blood and juices is dripping, and you're thinking about your son, what all he done did. That ain't gonna work. That's octane itself. My question. So the question stands still. Who's crazy? So I think that's all to be said for now. We were on Investigation Discovery. Yes. The website, the ID logo is above Investigation Discovery. Yes. Live now. This lets you know right here. Grave Secrets is on live now. Right now. The Perfect Murder, yeah, all new episode. You can click here to watch now, right? If you click anything and watch it like I did and say pause, it's going to sit right here. Even once you leave out off, yes, the website, and say come back, this is going to sit and wait for you to play it, to continue watching it, right? So recommended for you is Homicide Hunter, Lieutenant Joe Kenda. On every show, when you scroll over is a description, add to favorites, Fatal Vows, description with that, Evil Lives Here, everyone, Paula, she has her own description, yes. Deadly Women, you can also add it to your favorites, once you, yes. Red Rum, Pamela Smart, Someone You Thought You Knew, The Devil Speaks. Also unlocked episodes, Murder by Numbers. You can add that to watch later. See that? The Last Defense. Season 1, Episode 1, expiring in 25 days. The Devil Speaks, all that I scrolled already. Sugartown. Deadline with Tamron Hall, right? On Last Night. Someone You Thought You Knew. This is all, yeah, going back. And then there's a lock and key where you got to sign in with your provider in order to sign in and see. That's why it says sign in with the key. Killer, yeah, Closer. ID Original Series. Pamela Smart, The Missing Pieces. Most Evil Ranked. Evil Lives Here. Yes. After the Evil, Women in Prison. Real Talk. Reasonable Doubt. Dead North, The Interrogation. Murder Calls, 911. You can't see that one. Breaking Homicide, The Final Theory. Also, the show Disappeared. That's on here as well. I just scrolled it. I can't go back. But that points to missing individuals, too. Still a mystery. Red Lobster. I ain't been to Red Lobster in years. It's been a few years. A scheduled preview. Yeah, live now. I just said that. The crime feed. Once you click on this, it's going to take you outside to the crime feed. To combine the outside crime feed. And place some of that here. And yet, once you click it, you be directed out there to say these two things go together, and they should, because they all represent crime. True crime. True crime is its own genre. True crime. Join in the newsletters. Click that, not click it, but fill it in. So I think that's all to be said for now. The genre is considered true crime. For those that didn't know, now you know. Crime, love of passion, mystery, brutally murdered, all that all fits in the genre of true crime. And I don't mean an album in the form of music sales and music styles. No. But kinda. Not completely though. So I think that's all to be said for now, and I'm gone.